Okay, so hey everybody, thanks for tuning in. So today I want to talk in this video about a question that's come up in the RESEARCHERS.ONE platform is about actually the peer review process. So on the site you may have noticed that when you go through the submission process, you see that there's actually a couple of different peer review options. One of them is this public peer review, and the other one is the private or traditional peer review. So in the video today we want to talk a bit about the different features of those options, right? And sort of so how would a researcher who chooses one of the two options, how would they actually proceed to actually get the feedback that they're looking for? So I think.
Yeah, so I think that the first thing before we go into the two options specifically the first thing to realize is that one of the main principles of the platform is freedom and autonomy. And as part of that autonomy, the user of the platform who's trying to get peer review feedback is in complete control of this process. And with that freedom comes, a bit of responsibility, in that this is not something that will happen automatically. So I think that, many people might be used to submitting to a journal, and it's expected, of course, that the editor of that journal is going to solicit the feedback from reviewers, and you're going to receive feedback eventually based on the work that the editor does to solicit that feedback. On the RESEARCHERS.ONE platform, there are no editors, and that's considered a feature of the platform. And so really, to benefit from the peer review aspect of the site, the user is going to need to maybe put a bit more effort into it. And so there's really two ways to get feedback. The main way, and the one that most of the users seem to prefer so far, and maybe one of the more innovative parts of the platform, is this public peer review part, where when you submit your article, you say that you want it for public peer review, and then it will be posted on the site, and it will be visible to the public and available for comment. And the comments that are made on the site will be publicly listed on the site, and any user can comment. So in principle, anyone who comes across your article could comment on the article. But again, it's probably to your benefit to call attention to the article and to really to disseminate it as widely as you can within your individual research community. And so I know that we've used that in a few of our articles, and we've gotten feedback on some of our articles already. And so it has been beneficial for that purpose.
Yeah, so we tried both things on Twitter, right? Sending out messages to just our social network on Twitter, but also reaching out to people that we know, right? Sending emails to friends and other colleagues to say, here we posted this paper here, that you can go to the site and you can provide the feedback there. We welcome any feedback that you have, right? So we had to sort of do this ourselves. We were working hard to try to find people who might be interested in it, and we reach out to them specifically and say, please go to the site and out and post some comments if you have any.
But I think that really is the essence of peer review, in that we are really soliciting the feedback of our peers. The other option that's available is a more traditional option, where you choose which individuals you want to receive a message, private message, to be able to view your submission privately within the RESEARCHERS.ONE platform, and to provide you feedback privately. And one thing that I think that we really need to discuss about this, because I've gotten questions from junior researchers, is, well, how am I going to solicit feedback? How do I know who to ask? How do I know that I'm going to get feedback from these people? What will make them respond to me, and so on and so forth? And I think that's really a great question, but I think that it's important to realize a couple things. First thing is that in most fields, the big names in that field, the people that are most well known in that field, are probably not refereeing a lot of articles for journals, because they are busy doing other things for journals. They're busy as editors for journals, and so on and so forth. But that being said, that doesn't mean that they would not be receptive to providing you with feedback on your article, assuming that you were to maybe present it in a more friendly and a more collegial way. So I guess the thing that comes to mind for me is that it's not uncommon, or in the past it hasn't been uncommon for me to receive a request from a journal to referee a paper. And the editor sends me a request and says, would you mind refereeing this paper for me? And that's all it says. And then I open the paper up and it's 60 pages long. And so I've been given absolutely no guidelines as to what it is about this paper that I should be looking for. I'm expected to read a 60-page paper, and this is an extremely time-consuming and draining process. And I think that, you know, one thing that you cannot expect somebody necessarily to do is to respond to such a generic request. That being said, if somebody were to email me a 60-page paper and to specifically highlight a part of that paper that I might be able to help them with, you know, take a look at section 2, or take a look at the argument presented in this piece of the paper. Does it sound right to you? I mean, this is something that I do receive these requests, and I make an effort to respond to all of them to the extent that I can actually say something intelligent, because this is directing my attention to something very specific, something that I think that I can help with, and something that I think would really help the author out quite a bit. And so I think that's really how we would recommend the private option be used for those who wish to use it.
Yeah. So in the platform, right, as you select, when you go through this process of identifying some reviewer, you enter their contact information, email, so forth. There's a text box that's there that's provided on this form that allows users to type in a message to the reviewer, right? And so this reviewer, when they receive the email request for a review, they will see this message from the author. And so it's in that text box that the author can point out to say, okay, I would like for you to review, say, section 2, or the argument that I presented in section 3. Right? You can point the reviewer to specific parts of the paper and ask for feedback about that part. Right? So this is requires much less time investment for a reviewer to comment on something very specific, but it also allows the author to identify different reviewers who may have different expertise to comment on the different parts of the paper. So for example, maybe there's one part is about some data collection, maybe another part is about the scientific context, maybe another part is about analysis of data, right? These can be, the author can identify different experts to comment on each of these individual parts. So in some sense, you can get a better assessment of the work by sort of specializing your request to specific authors that have specific reviewers that have that kind of expertise.
Yeah, and I think that, so I think that so I think that should make the process a bit more streamlined and also quite a bit more helpful to the authors. One thing that is also worth keeping in mind while the platform is new is that it could be helpful to reach out to the reviewers individually, and to try to explain to them a little bit about the platform, or a little bit about yourself.
It's a sense of community, is that we actually want this to be a community, not just someone feeling obligated to help out with the review. You want to connect with this person on a personal level, so that you may have some common interests, maybe some opportunities for collaborations, these kind of things. So it's not just like asking for a favor. You're actually wanting to engage with that individual. And so a way to do that would be to make a personal sort of request from them, not just a mechanical kind of thing from a message sent from a website.
Yeah, so hopefully, to those who are asking, this clarifies a bit about the peer review options on the site. If you still have questions, or if you have any difficulties, of course, you can contact us on Twitter or by email. But we hope that this helped, and we look forward to seeing your submissions on ResearchersOne.